Now you're deeply involved in the process of application. And you've learned some basic steps. You want to know the truth, you want to relate the truth to your life, you want to meditate it, and you want to practice it. Now, with that backdrop, let me give you some questions to ask, which will help you in the process of application. Question number one, I ask, is there an example to follow? Jot down 1 Corinthians 11:1, where Paul says, now follow me as I follow Christ. Boy, the first time I saw that, I said, you got to be kidding. I'd never ask anybody to do that. My friend, whether you ask them or not, that's what's happening. They're following you, your children, your disciples, the people in your church. So ask when you come to a passage, is this an example? Maybe it's negative. Don't do this. Maybe it's positive. This is what ought to characterize your life. There's a second one. Is there a sin to avoid? In Ephesians chapter 5, Paul commands me to love my wife as Christ loved the church. Every single day I have to ask, am I doing that? And every time I think I'm doing well, he says, as Christ loved the church. Do I love her that well? You see, this is a motivation in my life. A third, is there a promise to claim? You see, the thrill in following the Lord is what he promises, he performs. He's not promising you something as many a politician may do, but never produces. If he says, I will never leave you, nor forsake you. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. That's a promise. Claim it. Number 4, is there a prayer to repeat? And I love to go to 2 sources. One, the Lord's Prayer, which is in John 17, and the disciples' prayer, which is found in all of the Gospels. Because in every case, I am learning not only what he tells me to pray, but listening to Christ as he prayed to the Father. What an opportunity. What a revolutionary experience. The 5th one, is there a command to obey? The Bible is full of commands. And when you come to the application sections in the Gospels, for example, in Romans 12 through 16, in Galatians chapter 5 and 6, in Ephesians chapters 4 through 6, in Colossians chapters 3 and 4, study those and take a pencil or a pen and underline all of the commands that are given you and are given to me. The 6th question, is there a condition to meet? For example, in John 15 and verse 7, if you abide in me and my works abide in you, you can ask what you will and it shall be done to you. But you got to learn, for example, here's where interpretation comes again. What does it mean to abide? I think the simple explanation to abide is to obey. And then 7th, is there a verse, maybe a passage to memorize? Have you memorized Psalm 1? Have you memorized Isaiah 53 or John 14? I have to tell you, after being a Christian for 70 years, that the greatest change in my life has come from the results of the Bible I have memorized. And I have been in the greatest crises of my life. And these verses come back to me. See, they become working capital because I memorize them. But I can't use them if I haven't committed them to memory. And I would have to say to you as an older Christian, the greatest regret of my life is that I have not memorized more Scripture. Because what you discover as you're getting old is there's a little leakage up here. And you pour it in, but it seems to leak away. My wife and I are memorizing the Psalms. And I'll often say, sweetheart, give me Psalm 40. She gives me the Psalm. I said, hey, baby, you missed verse 7. Oh, verse 7, I always miss verse 7. She said, well, Howie, you give it to me. So I give it to her. She said, Howie, you're making tremendous improvement, but you forgot verses 8 through 12. You see, you've got to go back and repeat the memory which you, the verses which you have committed to memory. And the last question I want to give you for application, is there a challenge to follow? I'll give you a challenge. I want you to apply these steps of application, these questions, to Ezra chapter 7 and verse 10. It's only one verse, but go through the process for yourself.